In this episode of First Impressions, I'm going to let my nerd flag fly and talk about The Mandalorian. Spoilers ahead if you haven't watched the show yet. Growing up, I was a huge Star Wars fan. My brother and I burned out VHS tapes of A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. We played Jedis in the backyard and pretended we were flying in hyperspace while my mom drove in the car in the winter. So needless to say, as the Star Wars franchise grew, I was pretty stoked to see where it was going to go. Now, this is not a review of Star Wars or a ranking of the franchise, but I do have to say that after George Lucas sold Lucasfilms and Star Wars went to Disney, the story started to get a little stale for me. I was becoming bored with the Skywalker clan and the same story repeating itself. I still like the franchise, and don't get me wrong, I still watched the movies and bought the merch, but I was craving that old nostalgia of the 1970s that A New Hope had. So when I saw there was going to be a Star Wars-style TV show, but it was going to be outside the realm of the Skywalkers, I was so excited. Before I get into some of the nitty-gritty details of the show, there are a few overall thoughts I have from episode 1 that I need to get off my chest. First of all, the score. Holy shit, the music is absolutely phenomenal. Ludwig Göransson, who also composed for Black Panther, Venom, and Creed 2, nailed this music. It's unquestionably Star Wars, and yet somehow Western. The layers of sound and instruments create a darker ambiance that tell me how I should be feeling in that moment. Which leads me into Mando's movements. He's eerily still most of the time, making every small movement he does make mean something. And the music amplifies the emotions of those movements. Watching this episode, I was blown away by the fact that I felt such strong emotions coming from a character whose face I never got to see. That is stunning. Kudos to everyone there, Pedro Pascal, Ludwig, and Dave Filoni, for the acting, music, and direction. Last thing before I talk about the show, I promise. Dave Filoni. If I could imagine anyone else creating Star Wars other than George Lucas, it would be Dave. There was direction to bring back the puppetry that made the original Star Wars have a certain charm. And it translated so well. I almost cried when I saw all of the creatures and puppets that I'd loved so much as a kid. The show opens up with an old-fashioned bar scene. There's a nice nostalgia when we hear the characters speaking Huttonese, the same language as Java. Mando, the main protagonist, strolls in like a cowboy, promenading through the Batwing doors and kicks butt to get his bounty. He tosses the bounty puck on the table where the wanted poster appears. I absolutely adore the Western vibes that are apparent right at the beginning. It's so much reminiscent of spaghetti westerns. When the bounty tries to bribe Mando for his freedom, Mando retorts,
"I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold."
There are also several amazing Easter eggs hidden throughout the entire episode. The first one I noticed was his rifle blaster. It's actually an Ambon Phase Pulse Blaster. You might recognize it from the 1978 animated holiday special. It's the same weapon that Boba Fett used. The next one is when Mando heads to the cab stop. The creature that hails the cab is a Kubaz. For all you nerds out there, you'd remember from A New Hope the same type of humanoid alien calling in the droids they were in fact looking for. There is some banter with the bounty when another infamous image pops up. The bounty is frozen in carbonite, much like Han Solo. Mando goes to collect his reward for the bounties he's brought in when he gets his next target. However, there is no puck. He has to meet face-to-face to retrieve the assignment. We get another little egg in the scene before Mando enters the building, a TT-8L gatekeeper droid. You may recognize the same droid from Jabba's palace. Once inside, this is where we get to see the struggle of the underground Empire members that remain after the fall. The stormtroopers look, well, pretty rough. Not a great idea to wear white, it shows all the dirt, cracks, and dents. The whole scene of Mando learning about the job is intense. As Mando's leaving, he's told it's nice to restore the natural order to things. I got chills. Between the music and Mando's body movements, it was so gloriously uncomfortable. It was brilliantly done. Now, Mando's off to hunt down this mysterious target with very little information. We do get to see a little bit of a comedic scene when Mando runs into the Burg. He's ambushed by the creature and is rescued by Quill, an Ugonaut. Quill offers to help Mando find the bounty so that peace can be restored to his land. In order to help, Mando must learn to ride the Burg. This is hilarious. He keeps getting thrown from the wild beast and becomes frustrated and angry. This is the first real emotion we see and hear from Mando. This is so reminiscent of watching a cowboy break a wild horse. Think Smokey from 1966. Once Mando finally breaks the Burg, he goes on his way to find the bounty. When he arrives in town, he spots an IG-11 unit turned bounty hunter. The IG unit is shooting wildly at all of the people in town, including Mando, who tells him he's a part of the guild and to stop shooting him. Together, they have an old-school Western shootout. Think of the battle at the OK Corral, a nice parallel to the Sarlacc scene in Return of the Jedi. This scene is pure magic. It has all of the best parts of a town brawl, people falling off roofs, running behind buildings just to barely avoid getting shot by a blaster. Everything about this scene was so well choreographed, and the cinematography is brilliant. Now the two have taken out the entire town, and they look at the big heavy metal doors where inside the bounty resides. We hear Mando say, "Now we just need to get the door open," and they both slow turn to the giant blaster that was commandeered to win the battle. Once inside, we see the bounty, though 50 years old, is nothing but an infant. You guessed it, folks, it's baby fucking Yoda. The ID unit wants to destroy the target. As we see him raise his blaster, the camera focuses on Mando. We hear the blaster go off, and even though I know the child is fine, my heart sped up because what if it wasn't? That's when we see the IG unit hit the ground. Mando saves the child's life, and what I sincerely hope is an infamous shot of Mando and the child touching fingers like the creation of Adam. Overall, it took less than one full episode for me to fall head over heels in love with this show. It brought back my undying love for Star Wars and really made me want to rewatch the entire franchise. Yes, even the good, the bad, and the ugly. I would say if you ever liked Star Wars, even in the slightest, and you haven't watched The Mandalorian yet, you're missing out on something so incredibly special. And if you have watched the series and want to fangirl about it with me, smash that like button and post a comment of your favorite Easter egg in the show.
Hey, puppers! If you haven't already, join our Facebook group. We have fun memes, polls, and exclusive sneak peeks to Pupcorn. We hope to see you there. Link in the description.